Welcome to another edition of Ways Teen Takeover, where we dive into trending topics and tackle the issues that matter most to us. I'm Yasmin Basharu, and joining me today are my amazing co-anchors, Alpha Saleh, Fola Fashanu, Nife Akinwale, Izni Odibo, and Salma Basharu. We have a fresh face with us today. Nife, how are you feeling?
Hi, Yasmin. I'm feeling great. Honestly, I'm really excited to be here.
Or you should be. It's going to be really fun. How are you feeling, Salma?
I'm feeling amazing. I have such high expectations for today's topic.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really good. I think it's going to be an amazing conversation.
I promise that it will be. Izni, Alpha, are you there?
Yes, we're here.
How are you guys feeling today?
I'm super excited to get this conversation going, and I'm really happy to be back again this year.
It's lovely to have you back again. Yes, Alpha?
Yeah, it's more or less the same thing for me. Happy to be back. Lovely to see you all again, and I look forward to the conversation.
Perfect. So today's discussion centers on storytelling and social impact, how young Nigerians are shaping Africa's future. Really exciting stuff. So head on to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, hit that subscribe button, like, share, and invite your friends to join the show now. When I open the phone lines, I would really want to hear your say on this topic. As always, please ponder on the quote for today. The quote is, "We have the stories, languages, and cultures to reshape global perceptions of Africa. Now we must leverage technology to share them widely." Isaac Effiong. So we'll delve into this much later, but first I'm off on a break, and when I come back in partnership with EIE, we would be discussing what citizens should know about the continuous voter registration. Stay tuned. You are still watching Ways. Welcome back. In partnership with EIE, we would be having a chat with Taiwo Badegesin, who is the HOD, Voter Education and Publicity of INEC Lagos. Nigeria's democracy faces persistent challenges, low voter turnout, weak political participation, and the disenfranchisement of millions of citizens. Young people, new voters, internally displaced persons, and those who have changed their residence are especially at risk of being excluded from future elections if they are not captured in the continuous voter registration. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has reopened the CVR process ahead of the 2027 general elections, providing an opportunity for citizens to register, update, or transfer their voter details. The exercise began with online pre-registration on August 18th, 2025, while in-person registration starts nationwide on August 25th, 2025 at designated centers. So, I would like to welcome our guest from EIE. Hello, are you there? Hello, can you hear me? Oh, could you please unmute? Hello? I'm not sure if our guest can hear me. Could you please unmute your mic? Okay, so while we wait for our guest, I would just like to talk about the topic with you guys. The topic is storytelling, so it's a really interesting aspect of life in the sense that everybody has individual stories. I would like to, pass on to Salma, whose favorite word in the world is sonda, right? So could you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so sonda, I feel like my whole career is centered around that word. It basically means it's the realization that every passerby has a life as vivid and complex as your own.
Yeah.
And the reason it stands out like so much to me is because every day, especially in Nigeria, just like going out on the street, driving around, like looking out to the window, everything looks like a story. Yeah. You see different people, like a bus driver arguing over change. You see a teenage boy clutching onto a love letter. You see a market woman I don't know, humming a song. It's just like different people have different stories, and I feel like every story deserves to be told.
Yeah.
Everyone's like the main character of their own story.
Exactly. I mean, it's a really like humbling thought, but it's one that could also be grounding. Just the idea that everybody's on their own individual journey. But it also kind of makes everybody relatable in a sense. You know, there are people achieving really crazy things in this world, but knowing that they had their own challenges, they had their own path that they took to get there. Like, it's just amazing for people to be able to share that, so we know that there's honestly nothing too different from, you know, you and Dangote. But yeah, you know, Salma, you act, and art is one of the primary mediums of storytelling. So I want to understand how you prioritize storytelling in your acting or in this, your passion, you know.
Okay, so for me personally, I haven't always been one to express my feelings through words, so I found a way to express through art. I love spoken words, poems, because I feel like even if you can't find the right words, like you would connect with the rhythm of like on the spoken words, poems and stuff like that. So yeah, storytelling is really like important in my career because like it's not fake, it's very like it's real.
It is,
It takes your whole, I don't know how to explain it.
I completely understand what you mean, and like Nifa, I know that you're really big on visual art. So I want to know, how do you look at telling stories through the pictures, the drawings that you do, you know?
Yeah, I really am big on visual art, and unlike Salma, it's not necessarily my career, but it is something that I've always really been interested in.
Yeah.
And I do feel like everybody has their own way of telling their own versions of events, their own stories, their own lives. And for me, through visual arts, like Salma said, I sometimes struggle to find the words to express how I feel, or to put into, just to be able to perfectly encapture the way I'm feeling at any particular moment. And I feel like drawing it out, you know, painting, it might not necessarily be a person, it might not necessarily be anything that makes sense to somebody else, but as long as it makes sense to me, I feel like my story is being told.
That's really powerful, and I love that. To be honest, I think now more than ever, storytelling is really present, especially with how large, like, you know, music is growing, especially from Africa. You know, we have artists like Rema, not even just telling his own individual story, but also like about Benin culture and everything. So I'm really interested about what you guys think about that.
I think it's just an amazing thing, really. It just people being able to, it kind of builds a community as well, because everyone's telling the same story. That's why I think all these artists like Rema, Berna, like all these people that are telling their separate stories are really impactful for like everyone, I think. And I think music is such a vital thing, as we know.
Of course.
And I think it brings so many people together and like lets different stories be told.
Exactly. Izine, I mean, as a writer, I would love to hear your take on this.
Yes, so when it comes to storytelling and social impact, I feel like storytelling is uniquely powerful when it comes to engaging or creating social impact, particularly because storytelling is all about, you know, crafting a narrative or reflecting a narrative that is currently ongoing. So, for example, when you talk about like EndSARS, there were lots of, you know, artists, whether those were like visual artists or writers, who were chronicling what was going on and also using it as a way to get more people out there and have more people protesting. So I think in that way, storytelling is really powerful because it allows people to use their own individual lens to highlight things that are bigger than them.
100%. Alpha, do you have anything to...
Yeah, I completely agree with what Ezine said. Specifically what she said about narrative. I think the story is probably like the fundamental thing that's kept humanity going for as long as it has.
Yeah.
Because it's how people learn. People learn via stories. Don't do that thing because there's this boy that did this and that happened to the boy.
Exactly.
And then you shouldn't do that thing. You know, it's kind of it's like music. You don't have to really speak the same language to be able to relate with it.
Exactly.
Now, I think storytelling is useful for social impact because under every story, there's an ideology that the story carries. Some people can tend to call it a moral or a lesson or something. Point is, there's a way that you will think about the world after you've heard that story that you didn't think about the world before you heard the story. And I think storytellers, writers, artists, musicians, everyone that functions in that capacity has a responsibility to really take that narrative and really the ideology that they're creating with that narrative very seriously. So if you need to write a story, don't just write any story. Write a story that you know would benefit society in terms of how people will start to think after they've heard the story. Do you want them to see gang violence as the norm or as the accepted thing, or drug abuse as the accepted thing? Then don't craft that narrative in your story, because people would eventually assimilate that ideology and begin to reflect it. That's what I think.
100%. I mean, young Nigerians are genuinely shaping Africa's future. And I think this is primarily because of the reintroduction of curiosity, like understanding that we all have our own individual stories, but what about our collective story, you know? Like understanding, let's say, the history of our nation, because for you to make any kind of substantial change, you need to, first of all, understand where we're coming from. So I think right now, Nigerian youth are becoming more, I don't know, a bit more hungry, a bit more interested in being involved, you know, wanting to know what's going on around. Or what do you guys think?
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think something that Arthur did mention, and also Esene, about controlling the narrative is really important. And I think it not only even affects youth today, but it goes back generations. So how stories are passed down from mother to child to grandchild.
Exactly.
How those stories impact a child's life, and how that child holds onto those narratives and use that and keeps that with them as they grow up, as they go into the world and become fully functioning adults.
Yeah.
I think it's really important the ways that we interact with our children to be able to have them shape themselves in a way that's beneficial to society as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the stories we tell now are kind of making our history. So we wanted to tell the stories that we want in the future for our future generations to say, this is what we are, this is who we are.
Exactly.
We want to write those stories that make everyone understand that we are reunited as a nation.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I think I really love that we kind of shifted a little bit to like cultural preservation, because human beings, we are social beings, you know. That is how we pass on our own stories. It's like by speaking to each other. And one of the big ways in which like history is passed on is through conversations. You know, I'm sitting down with my grandma, she's telling me about the First World War. Like, it's not always through artifacts. Sometimes it's just by speaking and understanding what someone's individual experience was, to understand our collective experience, you know, or to understand like our identity, you know. So I think, you know, certain things like, let's say, Nigerian history not being taught in a lot of curriculums, it's kind of disruptive in the sense that we don't even understand our own history, our own story as a nation, as Nigerians. Like, these are things that allow people to fully connect with their countries and fully connect with their identities. So I'm interested in you guys' take on that. Isn't it? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually a topic that I'm like quite passionate about. Just talking about how Nigeria isn't a country that's too keen on archiving our history, and that comes in two forms. So for starters, oral histories is really big in Nigeria. We're not one to have like written traditions or epics the way previous empires or countries usually chronicle theirs. And I'm not saying that that is like a lesser form of, you know, chronicling our history, but I do think we could benefit from, you know, trying to actively integrate other forms, or also actively participate in these oral histories, because so many things, even just like proverbs, a lot of these things are being lost. Languages in Nigeria are on like the brink of extinction. And I think that we need to all do our part to keep the story going and not lose all of these important information to the passages of time.
Exactly. Just keep the curiosity alive. So we will be right back and continue this conversation after a really short break. See you soon.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we will bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
This season on Heartlines, we're committed to making a difference in people's lives. So Heartlines, in partnership with Veda Consult, is offering 12 free slots of counseling every quarter for people in need of professional counseling. Additionally, we're taking on 2 pro bono cases for individuals navigating a challenging divorce. To participate, please send an email to counsel@vedaconsult.com with your story. Our team will carefully review all submissions and will contact all the shortlisted candidates. Heartlines is live Mondays to Fridays at 10 p.m. So engage with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we will bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Across Nigeria, a new generation of changemakers is redefining how stories are told and how those stories shape society. From documentary filmmakers capturing the voices of marginalized communities to digital activists using social media to spark civic movements, young Nigerians are wielding storytelling as a powerful tool for social impact. In a country marked by rapid change, cultural richness, and persistent inequality, these storytellers are not only raising awareness, but also driving action, influencing policy, and inspiring hope. This movement is more than artistic expression. It's a strategic response to social challenges, whether addressing education, gender equality, climate justice, or political accountability. These young voices are making sure Africa's narrative is told by those living in it. And truly, I think that this is made a lot easier by the rise of social media. You know, if everybody has a platform to share their story, everybody has a voice, you know. For instance, I don't know if you guys saw that young lady that shared her takes on the political state of the country, you know. I think she was a youth corper.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So she was able to just, like, voice out her concerns, voice out her problems, because she had a platform where she could literally just turn on her phone and just start talking.
And it's so easy. You can just do it, like, whenever you want.
Exactly.
As well.
Not to be the devil's advocate here, but I don't know if you saw the consequences of that video and how terribly she was treated by not even just the people that were viewing it, but also the government, people that are supposed to be our so-called leaders.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes me question just how social media is, of course, a powerful tool that has helped so many people's lives. But I also wonder what you guys think about the detriments of it. How can it affect us negatively?
Yeah.
I think it just like sums down to how much freedom do we have on social media? How much freedom of speech are we allowed to portray that won't cause an issue? Because that woman was, like, her repercussions were so bad that, I don't know.
I mean, I guess it could be argued that social media gives this illusion of being invincible or untouchable, or it gives this illusion that we are a lot more progressive than we actually are as a world, you know. Just because we all of a sudden have a platform to easily share our stories doesn't mean that the world is ready to accept it or do what they should do with it. You know, isn't it? What do you think?
Yes, I think I definitely agree that social media is a super powerful tool when it comes to amplifying issues like this, because not only did she share her own personal story with her grievances with the government, but she started a hashtag and a 30-day challenge to encourage other people to speak out. And then so that really, like, brought light to a lot of the situations that people are suffering from, just like within the country. And awareness and acknowledgement is definitely the first step. However, it did have, like, adverse reactions from people who were then starting to have wars about whether or not as a youth copper you should be buying a whole crate of eggs. There's a whole bunch of conversations along those lines. And she also got a lot of backlash, not just from the people watching it, but, you know, from the government as well. So it's definitely something that we have to weigh the risks of, because it is very important to stand for the right thing, but you also have to take care of your own, like, personal safety as well.
Exactly. Alpha, what do you think?
Yeah, to be honest, I saw the video and I was just appalled. Like, I couldn't even finish watching the video. I just closed my phone and, like, left it. I think the Nigerian government, at least the policies that we have in place, are not exactly tailored to to accommodate the Western idea of free speech that social media today provides. You know, and if this is the case, that we're going to try to start using stories, especially using social media to tell these stories, I think there should be some institutional policies that are implemented, you know, just to control and to define exactly what free speech is and what it's not, and what you can say and what you can't say, so we don't have consequences like this. Because yeah, everybody deserves to tell to some extent their story, especially if it contributes to like national development. But then if that's the consequence that's waiting for them at the end, it doesn't seem to be worth it, does it? So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And you know, I have a question to ask. Do you think that social media just creates this illusion of change? Like just because, let's say we have like a really huge, let's say like a really huge movement was happening, right? Just because you're seeing the bloodshed on your screen doesn't mean that it's going to stop. Is it any different than if you weren't before? Like just because everybody's posting and sharing and posting a black screen doesn't mean that any substantial change is actually being done. You know, like are we still just helpless, but except we have this feeling that we're actually making some kind of change?
But I feel like awareness is such a big thing that affects like any problem. If you bring awareness to a problem, it's more likely to be fixed. So bringing, like, shedding light on something that wasn't going to have light shed on it before is always going to be a good thing in my mind, unless an individual is trying to trying to say something negative about it as well. So that's the point that I draw the line. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, I was going to say that I think there's always two sides to every coin in these kind of conversations, and I do believe that, like Adora was saying, that it does spark this positive change in a not necessarily change, but it at least starts that, it's that catalyst to at least start the conversation around these things. So like what Izine had mentioned earlier about, sorry I forget, but she did mention how you know, acknowledgement is basically the foundation of these movements that need to, you know, create change in our communities. But on the other side of the coin, I do think that what Yasmin is saying is a valid question. Do we just, I don't want to say, are we delusional in thinking that we're actually making some kind of progress in these movements? Because we look back 5 years before, these issues, we're facing them till today or even worse. So it's maybe because we've been online posting this, posting that.
We feel
it is so good to get that out there, but have we actually done anything about it?
Exactly. So the question is, was the problem ever solved, or did we just stop talking about it? You know, something seems like it's the main attraction, everybody's posting about it, so all of a sudden we stop posting about it, but then it's still there. We've just gotten used to it. So just because everybody's sharing their stories now doesn't mean that what we were complaining about before has ever stopped being a problem. I mean, it's an interesting thing to consider. You know.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Alpha, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think what Nife is saying is literally spot on. I just want to bring one person to mind that I think is the balance to the question that Yasmin asked. His name is Randy Peters, Peter for Nigeria. He's been on the show actually a couple of times. And essentially his MO is to get there to be electoral reform, because 2027 is coming, and I don't know about you, it's my personal opinion, I don't want to repeat what happened in 2023. So we're trying to get people aware, trying to get INEC itself as a body to be fixed and to be transparent before that time comes. So if you see, he's always posting, and he's a very, I don't even know, there are like things where people are saying they don't know where the guy is from because he can sing in like almost every Nigerian language. You know? So he's posting, he's sharing the stories, and he's putting it out there on social media. But at the same time, he's also taking us with him to the Senate House and to the House of Reps, where he's submitting proposals and he's actually getting the work done. So, and I think Nigerians appreciate this, because we see the comment sections of those posts where he talks about, okay, he takes a selfie with the Senate, with them, so that it says that we just submitted this to her, now we're waiting for you, ma, please respond to her. You know, that kind of thing. Nigerians see that kind of a work and they appreciate it. I think, unfortunately, though, he's a minority, someone that speaks and actually acts. He's a minority, and we need to change the narrative, even through the same stories, to get there to be more people like Randy Peters. And I think that's how we'll make that change.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. The fact that he's speaking and acting, he might be a minority now, But even him just posting about it shows people that it's possible to do something about whatever you're complaining about, you know? It's extremely cool.
Yeah. When it comes to social media, and I think acknowledgement, like I said, is a very important first step. Well, it's only the first step, and I think when it comes to awareness and acknowledgement, I don't think there's anyone who's like in denial or unaware of, you know, the current economic realities of Nigeria. Nobody knows that. Nobody doesn't know that we don't have stable electricity. Nobody doesn't understand that minimum wage is too low. These are things that everyone is so gravely aware of. But I think social media needs to be used as a vector of pressure, the way Alpha was just talking about. And I think that's why I'm not going to fully dismiss the powers of social media, because even though it can feel like, you know, people are speaking into the void, and even though I'm not going to confuse, you know, posting and reposting as like an inherent form of activism, it's still important, because if it's not important, people, the powerful people wouldn't be trying to silence us and take it away from us. So it is difficult in that sense, but it's about how we use it, okay? It's not just about, it's not inherently about like hashtags and views. It's about directing people to act, you know, physically in person, and also using it as a vector of pressure as well.
100%. And I mean, you know, we started the show talking about a lot of the positives of storytelling, especially in relation to like, you know, Nigerian youth and like social movements and everything. But, you know, there are certain challenges that we do need to shine a light on. Like, for instance, we talked about the lady that shared her opinion on social media, and, you know, things didn't end up really well for her. So some of the challenges that we still face are censorship in the media. You know, some people put out songs and then all of a sudden the message of it might not be allowed to be fully passed across, or even like with journalists and everything. So what do you guys think about that?
Censorship in the media is, I think, very much related to what Isine has just mentioned, of the higher-ups and people in power trying to silence youth voices. And the way social media is used nowadays, I think the way, or I believe rather, that it is important that we not only put it out there in a way that brings attention to these topics, but also in a way that creates accountability to the people that it's being addressed to. Because once you're calling out names, you're calling out numbers, calling out figures and facts, there is no way to avoid it and there's no way to censor it, because I feel like if we realize the power in our numbers, the power in our minds, we're going to be able to overcome even things such detrimental as censorship in the media.
Exactly. But then I think censorship might not even be as like direct as we're making it. Sometimes it's even just like how close-minded some people might be. For instance, it could be in the sense of like, let's say, an artist trying to go with a different vibe that's allowing them to connect more to their culture, but then everybody's saying that it is demonic and it's devilish. You know, it might even like, it might not be like upfront censorship, but it might just be people not wanting to receive different stories, or stories that are innately theirs, but they're just so blinded to it, you know?
But in that, I hear what you're saying completely.
Yeah.
But would that then be considered censorship, or just maybe a lack of understanding, or like you said, a closed-off mind? Sure. I feel like censorship is more of an intentional action, but in what you've described, it's more of an unintentional way of life that they've not been able to move past, maybe because of their upbringing, because of the culture we have in Nigeria. And I just think maybe it's important to distinguish the two. Yeah. But both are still very much important in this conversation.
Both still challenges. I completely agree. So, how do you guys think that, you know, moving forward, we could be a bit more daring with telling our stories as youth, and how we could use that as a tool to actually make the change that we want to see in our society?
I think so many people are just afraid of what could possibly happen to them if they speak out. That's why they're always so hesitant to do so. Like, everyone talks about, oh, it's your digital footprint, but you want to have good things on your digital footprint. You want to be the voice of change. You want to be an advocate for what's right. And I think that starts with, like, the person.
And I feel like nowadays, like, especially with this generation, that whole thing of trying to remain mysterious, people don't want to go out, like, put themselves out there, tell their stories, because they want to, I don't know, form steez, or I don't know, but I feel like the beauty, like, your story is beautiful, everyone's story is beautiful, telling your truth is a beautiful thing, and no one should ever, like, limit themselves from doing that.
Even things like your fashion, that's your story, it's the way you express yourself. So many people are like, oh, I can't put myself out there. Like, even the way you dress is putting yourself out there.
I agree. Like even in my school, I won't say, I don't know if I should say about this where I go to school, but for any people that are watching, you probably be able to guess where I go to school. But it's something that I have seen a lot where I attend, where people are, even you using your word, people are heavily censored in how they can dress, how they can express themselves, whether it's through makeup, hair, music. They're just how they are, who they are as a person. It is heavily contained, and anytime anyone steps outside of that box, it's suddenly looked down upon. It's suddenly told that you're not doing it right. You should do it this way. You should do it that way. And it's only going. It may seem small. It may seem, oh, this is just how you're dressing. This is just how you're talking. This is just how you're moving. But it does affect the bigger things in life, and it does make it harder for the youth to come out of their shells and be like, this is what I stand for. And this is what I believe in.
Exactly. So we have some questions. The first one is, what type of stories will inspire your generation and the next? I mean, I guess stories that make us feel like capable and empowered, you know? Like what Alpha talked to us about, a guy that's actually our age that, you know, he spotted a problem and he's actively working towards solving it. It's empowering to hear stories of people doing really cool things because it shows that it's possible and it shows that, you know, we could do it as well. Yeah. Okay, next question. American stories and movies portray bravery and heroism. Chinese portray so much morality, Indian love. What are our stories that are able to inspire patriotism?
Yeah, I can take that one. I think one of the statistics that we studied in preparing for this shows that Nollywood is the second largest filmmaking industry in the world, second to, I think, Bollywood. Yes. So one of the Nollywood, I'm not even sure if it's Nollywood to be honest, but then one of the Nollywood movies that I watched growing up was 93 Days. Now, 93 Days is a story about a woman called Stella Adadevoh and a group of people. If you remember in 2014, we had the Ebola pandemic, and it was a very scary time. People were dying, and, you know, we're in primary school then, so we didn't even know what was going on. But it showed that this woman was able to give her all for the nation and know what was going on. But it's literally come up with a team of people and contain the thing. I think the WHO actually recognized Nigeria's response to Ebola as one of the most effective responses to any disease outbreak in like a very long time. And that was something that really inspired Nigerians to say that, yeah, they can dare to give their life for the country. They can dare to serve even to the point of death, because Stella died herself from Ebola, you know, but she was able to save so many other people. So stories of Nigerian heroes can inspire patriotism.
Honestly, couldn't have put it better myself. I'm such a big fan of Nollywood. I'm constantly blown away by the art scene in Nigeria, to be honest. Music, like even fashion, and now, like through movies as well. I think the storytelling is unmatched. And I think there are a lot more resources now that are being poured towards Nollywood. And like I said before, the stories that we're telling, they're so unique because being a Nigerian is such a unique experience. Like the things that you're literally just talking about with your friends, you know, no matter how involved you are in like common affairs, it's still such a unique experience to be a Nigerian. So being able to tell that story, being able to redefine like very pivotal experiences that we've had as a nation, it's honestly amazing to see. What do you guys think? Especially like the actress.
You know, I've always wished that like all these people, you know, like the kids, there are these kids that stay on our streets. That's the address. that road. They're always like, they draw up this thing and they stop playing in the mud, especially like when it's like really wet. I've always wished that they would like get a platform to talk about their stories and just like talk about the way they view the world, because I feel like most stories that are put out there are people like at the top, because there's even like for you to be able to be in a movie, you need to audition, you need to have money, you need to have all these things. But I feel like the really interesting stories are the stories of the people who don't have the opportunity to come.
Exactly. Or even like To Kill a Monkey. Like, okay.
Oh, that
From
was good.
grass
Don't
to
get me
grace, you
started,
see
yeah.
somebody, and I think it also like showed a lot about the serious like hustle mentality in Nigeria. How you can go from struggling from the bottom, and even by the time you get to the top, you are still struggling. There's no time to actually sit down and breathe. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously there were a lot of like moral layers in that one particular storyline, but I feel like that's one thing that made it really relatable to a lot of people. Isn't even just like you necessarily had to be in the exact same shoes as the main character. Really relatable to a lot of people. Isn't even just like you necessarily had to be in the exact same shoes as the main character, but just like seeing how much he struggled and seeing how he was even treated when he was at the bottom. I think it called attention to a lot of like larger issues that we need to pay attention to, how people might treat people that may not be wealthy in Nigeria, first of all, considering how we love to glorify the rich. Very different conversation. But it's really amazing to see Nollywood shining a torch to these stories. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so does anyone have anything else to add? Any call to action?
I have a call to action.
Yeah, please, go first. Yeah.
Please, call us to action.
Okay, let me call you guys to action. So I think one thing that's important when it comes to, storytelling is being creative with how we're trying to get our stories across. Very critical, important. So I think that's one way in which we can use storytelling more effectively. And I think another very important thing, like I said, in terms of creating vectors of pressure and trying to translate all of these conversations into the offline world, is by reminding people that digital activism is only one element, and that's not really what is driving the conversation forward in real life. Vectors of
moments, some that. Welcome to Heartlights. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Okay, welcome back. This is still the Waste Teen Takeover. We're going to begin by reading some of the comments from our audience. So we have a comment from Mufeoluwa Shobowale. I feel like young kids in the diaspora don't have any experience of our culture, at least as much as we had. Yeah.
Honestly, that's a really heavy topic. And clearly, I mean, I'm not in the diaspora, but I do have a lot of peers, classmates, even family, friends that do feel like this a lot of the time. I feel like they don't feel as connected to their roots as to their culture because of where they are in the world. But I think it's also really critical to realize just how connected Nigerians can be, no matter. I don't know if you've heard the joke of how, like, you can go anywhere in the world and you find a Nigerian there. Yeah. And I think it's so funny to me because Nigerians honestly find their way to make a living for themselves, make a livelihood for themselves, no matter where they find themselves in the world, no matter what position they find themselves in. And I think it's also really important to first say, like, congratulations to any Nigerians who put themselves out there away from their roots, away from their home, away from their family, to go somewhere else, to try and maybe build a better life for themselves or their kids. I think that's really applaudable. But to address what you said about not feeling like you have as close of an experience to your culture, I completely relate to that. Even as a Nigerian living in Nigeria.
Exactly.
Like, I think the further down we go in our generations, you hear like parents aren't speaking our cultural languages to us as much, or like we're not doing a lot of our cultural practices. You can blame some of it on religion, but you can also blame some of it, I feel like, on You know what? I'm gonna reel back there. I don't wanna,
No, I love where you're taking this conversation.
I don't wanna put the blame on anybody because I do feel like it's a societal thing.
Yes.
I think the more Western influence we tend to have in our country, the less and less culture we seem to hold on to as each generation goes on.
I think it's also just because of perspective, right? Like, dating it back to colonization, the main idea to push was that your culture is bad, your culture is demonic, your culture is uncivilized, but ours is refined, ours is, developed, whatever. So even till now, you see people thinking that people that speak with Nigerian accents aren't as intelligent as people that speak with, so it's like, I think our generation is just like making an intentional effort to shift away from that whole perspective of thinking that what ours is bad. Because to give us some credit, I'm seeing people like being more intentional about connecting with their roots, Guys, I didn't grow up speaking my own native tongue, but I'm trying to learn Yoruba, I'm trying to learn Fufude, like I'm putting in an effort, and I feel like I've noticed also people doing that too. So I think that whole idea of not feeling connected to your culture is something, I don't think it's even exclusive to Nigerians in the diaspora. I mean, obviously it's a lot easier for them,
I feel like that's even where storytelling comes in, because like I feel like I felt more connected to my roots watching like all these Nigerian movies, listening to the songs. Like I can't speak Yoruba, but when it comes to an Ashake song, I'm feeling like I'm fluent in Ashake.
It's also things like art. Like if you walk into my home, you look around and all of the art around it. It's just all Nigerian. My mom loves Jakunde, but you just look around and these types of things tell stories. It kind of like imprints on my mind. Like,
exactly. So like we could spend lots of time looking at why we don't know that much about our culture, because there are lots of reasons. The previous generation might have thought that it wasn't, it was kind of ghetto, it was kind of, not great to know your mother tongue, but like we can focus now on being intentional about getting to know it so that we can pass it on to our children, our kids, just bring it back instead of letting our languages and our cultures die along the way. So, isn't it, Alpha? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I think one of the things of the culture and also about people in diaspora specifically is that I think we also kind of boil down or essentialize our culture into what is most, what looks the best or what's most digestible. So then now you have people in diaspora who think like the pinnacle of Nigerian culture is like jollof rice, ashoebi, and Burna Boy music. You know what I mean? Like our culture is so layered, and there isn't one unique Nigerian culture. However, it's mostly only like Yoruba, Igbo, and maybe Hausa, culture that is even like exported outside of the country as well. So I think in terms of people in the diaspora feeling more connected and also just people in the country being more in touch with their roots, I think we have to intentionally cultivate that kind of curiosity. And also we have to acknowledge that, our culture is more than like doing fake weddings abroad and stuff like that.
Exactly. We have another comment. Says, stories can transform the nation if it's done with intentionality. The rise of ritual killings, I believe, was birthed from our movies. The movies of today will tell you what your generation will experience. And another one that we have says that young girls in the diaspora, both Nigerians and non-Nigerians, now find Nigerian designers their go-to for bespoke dresses. I believe that is happening because of the awareness of the rich culture. Yeah, I mean, like we spoke about earlier, like the art scene in Nigeria is rising. It's at an all-time high and everybody's, wanting to connect. But I do have an issue with this because it tends to feel like, especially with a lot of Nigerian designers, although the designs are like a reflection of our culture and everything, it's no longer even accessible for Nigerians again with some of the prices and everything.
It's so important to talk about. I think it's incredibly important to talk about. In fact, tell me why I'm scrolling on Instagram and I'm seeing a bubu worth 300,000 naira, or like other types of Nigerian cultural clothing being priced in foreign currencies like dollars and pounds. Are we earning in dollars and pounds? Why are we pricing our clothing
Mind
like
you,
this?
the vendors in Lagos.
Exactly.
Everyone is, and the excuse all the time is, the economy, the economy.
Who are you catering to at this point?
I feel like they're losing sight of the purpose.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, even though it's supposed to be like this whole empowering act of reclaiming our history, reclaiming our culture, it still feels like, trying to lean more into that whole Wakanda African-esque vibe for the West to enjoy and feel exotic about for a few minutes.
I completely agree with what you're saying, because it's really important to ask ourselves, like, are we doing this for us anymore? Are we doing this to look good for other people?
To look interesting, to look different.
This reminds me of the conversation we had with one of our friends when we went to Ibadan. He paints and he makes really cool paintings, and he was talking about how he has a specific target audience and he doesn't want to sell them to rich people and people, like he has a specific aesthetic of people he wants to cater to, which is like the people in the art scene, the people who understand his work, the people who appreciate it. Yes. And I feel like that is how it should be.
That's intentionality.
That's intentionality,
yeah. Exactly. I also think we should circle back to this comment. Wait, I'm so sorry. Alpha, isn't he? Are you still with us?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You guys have anything to add? Okay, yeah, Alpha.
Yeah. I can speak to both of them, but I'll start with what Sama just ended up with. Yeah, unfortunately, I think even the decline, like with the generation of the culture and all of that, it's an institutional problem. The reason why these people sell those things at exorbitant prices is because they're looking for those who can pay those prices. And the reason why they're doing that instead of focusing on the point, which is to embrace the culture and all of that, is because of the state of the country. So as unfortunate as it sounds, like it's not the excuse, it's the actual reason, it's the economy. Because if people could pay the normal prices for the clothes that they're going to get and still live a normal life, because we don't want anybody to live in any bubble thinking that life is a certain way. But then the end point of every story being told is not for every story to be accepted, because some stories have the wrong morals. The end point, I believe, is to bring an awareness so that all of us can collectively go towards the correct direction for where we want our story